All right, breaking overnight, in an unprecedented move, President Trump announced he is firing Fed Governor Lisa Cook over allegations of mortgage fraud. This is the first time a president has fired a Fed governor in the central bank's 111-year history. Cook has not been charged with any crime. This has huge implications in politics, law, and the economy.
All right, folks, so we have some breaking news. In addition to Donald Trump attempting to illegally fire a Federal Reserve governor, as a consequence of that, the dollar began to crash. This is having economic implications as Donald Trump threatens the independence of the Federal Reserve in the most aggressive way yet. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, this is a big friggin' deal in so many ways. We're probably going to cover it in multiple videos. So Trump put out a screenshot yesterday. It was a screenshot of a letter that he wrote, and he essentially said, hey, listen, we think you committed mortgage fraud. That means you're not trustworthy. That means you're deceptive. You can't be trusted with respect to financial and fiscal decisions, which is basically your job as part of the Federal Reserve, and so I am firing you. I am terminating you. Now, as a consequence of this, the dollar dropped. As Justin Wolfers, an economist, noted, if Trump were operating in the best interests of America's businesses, his move to fire Lisa Cook would cause stocks to shrug or maybe rise. But they're saying this is dangerous. The move serves Trump, but not America. Our economy is at risk when the president undermines the Fed. And as a consequence, the dollar began to drop. Now, we're going to take a look at a Bloomberg article here and then get into some of the details surrounding Lisa Cook's potential illegal firing. Again, I say potential because she has responded to what Donald Trump has said, and spoiler alert, she's not cooperating. So Bloomberg says long U.S. bonds fall as threat to Fed's Cook spurs inflation worry. Takeaways. Long-dated U.S. Treasuries fell as Donald Trump intensified efforts to oust Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. Deepening concerns his attacks on the central bank's independence will fan inflation. The yield on 30-year bonds rose as much as 5 basis points to 4.94%, and investors and strategists speculated that price pressures may heat up if Trump succeeds in replacing Cook with a policymaker more inclined to lower borrowing costs. Andrew Ticehurst, senior rate strategist at Nomura Australia Limited, said Trump's actions are a reminder that the U.S. administration, quote, remains unconventional and unpredictable, and the market is concerned the Fed board could become, quote, stacked with doves. Okay? Let's take a look. Long-dated U.S. Treasuries fell as Donald Trump intensified efforts to oust Federal Reserve Chair Lisa Cook, deepening concerns his attacks on the central bank's independence and lobbying for lower interest rates will fan inflation. The yield on 30-year bonds rose as much as 5 basis points to 4.94%. The Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index dipped 0.2%. While the moves were relatively small, investors and strategists were speculating in their morning trading notes that price pressures may heat up if Trump succeeds in replacing Cook with a policymaker more inclined to lower borrowing costs. Trump has repeatedly complained that Fed Chair Jerome Powell and his colleagues have been too slow to cut interest rates. Trump's actions are a reminder that the U.S. administration, quote, remains unconventional and unpredictable, said Andrew Ticehurst, senior rate strategist at Nomura Australia Limited. The market is concerned the Fed board could become, quote, stacked with doves. Trump sought to remove Cook following allegations she falsified documents on a mortgage application. Cook said she will not resign and disputed Trump's authority to file her. So that's a spoiler alert. Let's get right to her statements provided by Kyle Cheney. Update, Lisa Cook says she's not going anywhere and Trump's bid to fire her is baseless. Lisa Cook, member, Federal Reserve Board of Governors. Quote, President Trump purported to fire me for cause when no cause exists under the law, and he has no authority to do so. I will not resign. I will continue to carry out my duties to help the American economy as I've been doing since 2022. So that is her official statement. Pretty ballsy, and I like it. I like that energy because, unfortunately, way too many people have been rolling over for this corrupt authoritarian president, making his job significantly easier. She is showing more backbone than Christopher Wray did, the FBI director appointed by Trump in his first term and allowed to continue under President Biden. Christopher Wray should have forced Trump to fire him. Instead, he resigned in advance to make it easier for Trump. Okay? Lisa Cook, she's made of sterner stuff, and she's like, nah, you're going to have to fight for this one. Love it. Her lawyer, Abby David Lowell & Associates, says President Trump has taken to social media to once again fire by tweet. And once again, his reflex to bully is flawed, and his demands lack any proper basis, process, or legal authority. We will take whatever actions are needed to prevent his attempted illegal action. Love it. Love it. Love it. The push to dismiss Cook is, quote, a good reminder that no institution in Washington can insulate itself from Trump's bullying, said Sarah Binder, political science professor at George Washington University. Quote, nor are claims of independence sufficient to protect the Fed from Trump's ambitions. The Fed needs defenders, especially bond traders. What Bloomberg strategists say, quote, the more the Fed cuts rates, the greater the threat that longer-dated yields will stay higher. It's one thing to loosen policy in the face of well-entrenched deflation, but it's quite another when price increases are running above target inflation. So that's what Bloomberg has to say. Oh, you know what? There's more, I'm sorry. Pressure on Cook follows an aggressive campaign by Trump to force Powell, whose term as chair expires in May, to stand down early, with the search for his replacement already underway. Trump appointed Council of Economic Advisors Chairman Stephen Moran, a longtime supporter, to serve the expiring term of Fed Governor Adriana Kugler, who resigned early this month. She was a Biden appointee, by the way, totally disgraceful that she resigned. I'm sorry. I'm sure she had her reasons. She's probably like, I don't want to put up with this shit. I've got a really nice job coming down coming down the particular line, right? But the fact of the matter is, I think in this moment, she had an obligation to stay in her position and make Trump work for it, because you help steward the economy when you're part of the Federal Reserve, when you're one of the governors. And to abandon your country in this time of need, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And if I remember correctly from her statement, she just it wasn't like she was resigning due to health reasons or anything like that. It was just, I want to quit and I want to go look elsewhere. I wouldn't, at this time, I just think that these bulwarks against Trump should remain in place. So that's the recent update with respect to the Fed. We'll take a look here. We're not going to look at this entire New York Times article, but they wrote an article about it as well. Trump said on Monday he was taking the extraordinary step of removing Lisa Cook in a legally dubious maneuver that could undermine the independence of the nation's central bank. And it's actually the first time in the bank's 120-year history that this has ever happened. Trump justified the firing, which he said was effective immediately, by pointing to allegations that Cook may have falsified records to obtain favorable terms on a mortgage, which, by the way, again, I keep forgetting about this. That's what Trump was found to have done in one of his New York fraud trials. Except that was actually the judgment of the court. It wasn't mere allegation. It was a judgment of the court. If I remember correctly, it might have even been a jury trial. But Trump is guilty, factually guilty, by a legal determination, not merely an allegation, of the very behavior he claims that Cook is engaging in that disqualifies her from her job, but apparently has no bearing on his job. I mean, the hypocrisy is stunning. It really is. Cook has not been charged with wrongdoing or convicted of a crime. In the days before Trump attempted to remove her, the president made no secret about his desire to remake the roster of the Fed as he savaged its members for keeping interest rates too high. By targeting Cook, Trump appeared to set the stage for a landmark battle that could define the limits of his power over the Fed. Many legal experts raised serious concerns late Monday with the manner of Cook's dismissal and Trump's justification for doing so, as they warned that Trump's intervention could compromise an institution at the heart of the economy with damaging results. I will point out, I can't remember if there's a reference to the Supreme Court case here. Let's take a look here, okay? So Trump sought to make the case, quote, the Federal Reserve has tremendous responsibility for setting interest rates and regulating reserve and member banks. The American people must be able to have full confidence in the honesty of the members entrusted with setting policy and overseeing the Federal Reserve. In light of your deceitful and potentially criminal conduct in a financial matter, they cannot, and I do not have such confidence in your integrity. That's an excerpt from Trump's letter that he screenshotted when he fired her. Lev Menand, a professor at Columbia Law School and former economist at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, said Cook's dismissal appeared at first glance to be, quote, an illegal firing, since it did not appear that the president provided proper notice and allowed her, quote, an opportunity to be heard. Quote, I think the central bank independence was hanging by a thread before this, said Mr. Menand, adding that the risks only stood to grow. The Supreme Court recently had a case on this. So there was a recent Supreme Court case since Trump retook office that allowed him, for example, to just unilaterally fire people like certain independent agencies. I'm blanking on some of the examples, but he fired a shit ton of them, right, in the first few months of his term. And those firings were challenged because it was just understood, well, these are at least semi-autonomous agencies. You need to fire them for cause. And the Supreme Court said, no. Trump can fire basically everybody except the Federal Reserve. we don't want the president to be able to just like make them at-will employees, right? Now, again, constitutionally, it's bullshit, right? Like, why one and not the other? It's very clear that they were reverse engineering a particular outcome. They don't want Trump to kill the economy, so they're doing this like bullshit arbitrary carve-out, arbitrary in the constitutional sense, but not in the practical sense, right? So they want to give Trump as much power as possible, but also protect the economy from Trump, or at least take steps to protect the economy from Trump. So that was a recent Supreme Court decision, and this could potentially be a challenge to that by Trump. As people point out, Cook's term was not set to expire until January 1st, 2038, almost 13 years from now. Extraordinary power grab by Trump under brazen pretenses. Remember that Trump is guilty of 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. Again, part of the irony here. Nathan Tankus points out this is the make-or-break moment for Powell's Federal Reserve. If they do not fend Lisa Cook and treat her as still on the board, the fight over the Fed as an independent agency will officially be over. See my Friday piece. And as of this moment, I don't think Chairman Powell has issued a statement. I'll look in just a second before we end the video. But yeah, I agree. He needs to stand by her, and I expect that he will. Aaron Frischner points out Republican senators who support Fed independence can stop Trump's illegal attempt to fire Fed governors very easily by holding up Trump's nominees until he relents. It's the obvious thing to do here if they genuinely care, which I'm sure they genuinely care, but I think they fear Trump more than anything else. So let's see if Jerome Powell has responded to Lisa Cook. Let's see. It's not looking good, folks. It looks like as of this moment... Yeah. As of this moment, Jerome Powell has not responded, but we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. But the bottom line is this. Trump's already creating economic turmoil with this unilateral, unprecedented, and extraordinarily dangerous move. You don't want the Federal Reserve to be beholden to the whims of any sitting president, Democrat or Republican. But Trump is attempting just his latest, this is the latest theater, the latest prong of his executive power grab. And it's incredibly important for the Federal Reserve, Republican senators, and the Supreme Court to say, fuck you, you can't do this. We'll see what happens. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.